I am Kamau Harris. I am a programmer and host of Beats, Bars, and Bangers. Appears every Wednesday morning, midnight to 2 a.m. on WPFW 89.3 FM right here in the belly of the beast, Washington, D.C. And I'm going to moderate today's plenary. We've got a lot of really good folks from the industry on the inside. They're going to give us an opportunity to understand the ins and outs of hip hop, how to get in as an artist, potentially in some other avenues as a photographer, and some other opportunities in terms of on the legal side, the business side. So we want to understand the entire 360 of hip hop this afternoon, all right? So let's take advantage of the folks we have here, and I'm gonna introduce their names and then give us a quick bio of who they are. And I'll start on the far end. Over here we have Ryan Schafer. Ryan, if you could just kind of give us a quick rundown and introduce yourself to the audience.
My name is Ryan Schafer. I'm a 2012 graduate of the law school here. Since then, I've worked in and around hip hop with Fader magazine, and then more prominently with Rock Nation. I was in-house doing several different things, but also with the legal team for about 5 years. And since that time, I've been working with Jay, Tata, Lenny S, and a few others in all the things that they do that surround hip hop and often whether it's branding, licensing, etc.
Next to Ryan, we have Shari Bryant. Shari, if you could give us a quick rundown of yourself and a quick bio. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. You might be a little closer. Yeah, there you go.
All right, cool. Hi, my name is Shari Bryant. I am the co-president of Rock Nation Label. I've been in the business for about 23 years. And, I oversee all things music. So I actually went back. I started interning at Rockefeller in about, I think, 1999. And then I rejoined Rock Nation in 2019. So we've been charged with revamping the label and just kind of like building the new generation of what it looks like. I'm sure we'll talk about it later.
Good? Yeah. Shari's my boss, so she's always yelling at me. How you doing, y'all? I'm Lenny S. I'm the senior vice president at Rock Nation. Special projects. I used to do A&R. I started out doing street promotion, transitioned into A&R. I worked on a bunch of Jay-Z albums, BBC, just everybody that was on Rockefeller at the time. Transitioned into Def Jam, worked with a whole bunch of Def Jam artists as well. And then from there, from A&R, transitioned into management. I used to manage a bunch of people, but now I just have one client, DJ Khaled. And I just do a lot of stuff on the side.
Yeah.
I used to be a little bit important now, I'm not just saying that person. But no, I do a lot of projects outside, in and outside of Rock Nation, filming, producing film and television. I also do photography as a hobby, and I have 2 books coming on Random House. So just working on a lot of stuff in and out of the music business. Very happy to be here. Very happy to talk about hip hop and what it means to me, what it means to us, and hopefully give you guys a little bit of insight or information that you didn't know prior to today. So thank you for coming.
I would have to follow that. What's going on, everybody? My name is Mecc, Rashawn. Quick background: I started out as an intern at the Source magazine, that when people read. Worked my way up to music editor. Got a bunch of covers under my belt. Took over the unsigned hype department. Developed a relationship with Busta Rhymes. I'm currently his A&R for Conglomerate Entertainment. The last album we worked on was his last one, which was Station Level Event 2, The Wrath of God. Thank you. Really tried. Thank you. A lot of arguments. That man is the size of security, so you know. Yeah. Got a little sticky from anyway. Currently, I'm also enjoying presidency at an independent hip hop label called ViperRecords. Looking to kind of infuse the thing that we all complain about not seeing, put that back in hip hop. And I'm a co-host on a show called My Expert Opinion with Math Hop.
Hi guys, I am Jazz Young. I am the director of the Warner Music Blavatnik Center for Music Business here on the amazing campus of Howard University.
You know.
So excited to be here. I got my start right here on Howard University's campus a very long time ago. I graduated School of C. Any School of C folks in here? Okay. A long time ago and got my start. Literally was hired from this campus at Def Jam. So I've worked with a bunch of these folks over the years, specifically on the Jay-Z projects in the very beginning. I'm a marketing strategist by trade. Then I progressed to be a professor. They call me the hip hop professor. And then last August, I made it home here to Howard. And I'm here every day to serve you. My office is here on the 4th floor for those of us who are unaware, but we serve students to help them to understand the business of music and give opportunity. And I'm happy to be here.
All right, so you can see we have a very powerful panel here this afternoon. So I'll get it started. Give you all a couple of softball questions, of course, and then we'll open it up to the rest of the audience. I guess I'll just open it up and start from that end, or really anyone who wants to kind of grab it. When hip hop started, when did you actually fall in love and appreciate the music? I know you're in the industry now, you probably got in the headphones constantly, but was there an initial beginning for you when you actually fell in love with the music? I'll start down there with Ryan.
So I'm originally from North Carolina, and I think it's a little different for everybody up here who's mostly New York centric. And so we got a lot of influences both from Atlanta as well as from New York. But I would say that where I grew up in Durham, there was a group called Little Brother. And one of the DJ was Ninth Wonder, and the main MC was a guy named Fonte. And I kind of grew up around them. They were at school at North Carolina Central, which I was on marching band there. And so even though I had kind of like been around it and knew of it, it was part of like a scene of things that I was trying to figure out what I liked. It was seeing people that I knew turn it into something bigger that really made it real for me. And I'm still friends with those guys to this day.
So, for me, I would say I grew up, my mom was heavy into like hip hop and R&B, and I would wake up every morning and it's playing. Instead of watching cartoons, I was always watching videos. That was my, I just loved it. And I grew up in 1199, home of a lot of great notable people, particularly Cameron and Damon Dash. And I would see Damon, who was one of the founders of RocNationBuckwild, just, like progress over time. Like first I seen him with original flavor, and, I would see him from just walking around and then in the videos, right? The videos that I was watching at home. And then my mom used to babysit him. So I ended up asking him one day when I was in my last year of high school, and I said, can I come intern with you? So it started really early, but the beauty of it is that it started and then it progressed into me starting with somebody that I watched and fell in love with, kind of like outside of the business. And then I was able to then intern with that same person. And that's where I got my start in music, was at RocNationBuckwild in 1999. So the story connects, thankfully. You're gonna have a unique story, and I'm really grateful for that. But that's the start of falling in love with them.
For me, unintentionally, it was probably like Sugar Hill Gang. It's like the first record I probably heard on the radio. That was probably one of the first records that was on the radio on a commercial level. Intentionally, for me, it started with Run DMC. Just watching them, seeing them It, you know, it was everything. I just loved everything about it, like what they were wearing, how they were talking, the slang. You know, Run to me was like the ultimate b-boy. You know, what I mean? They just looked so confident. The records were amazing. From there, I really developed love or whatever, or admiration rather, for his brother, Run's brother, Russell Simmons, who was running Def Jam. So, you know, then discovering Beastie Boys, like I was really following those things. So between Run DMC and like watching the movie, there's an old hip hop movie if you ever get a chance to watch called Crush Groove that features Run DMC, Beastie Boys, how LL Cool J got signed, and it's just really good. It's a story kind of like how Russell Simmons and Rick Rubin started this NYU dorm room, just like printing up records and just, you know, marketing, promoting themselves and getting everything out there with Curtis Blow and just, you know, a bunch of people, first people. Hip hop is great. Anyway, but yeah, that was like my intentional love for hip hop started there with Run DMC and like Russell Simmons.
Shout out to Run DMC and Russell Simmons, who are both from Queens. What he said, basically intentionally, I'm from Queens, so Run DMC, LL Cool J, Nas, these guys were like rumors, but I think rumors is in you would hear that they were there and everybody would get excited, but I think my official start with hip hop came from a man I credit as my older brother. His name was Chris Mathis. His nickname was Shake. He was a member of a legendary b-boy crew called the Dynamic Breakers. And he used to come into the house with his boys, and I was like a fly on the wall. And I would sit there listening to them talk about rap records for hours. Who was biting whose lyrics, who was biting whose moves as far as dancing was concerned. And it fascinated me that they had this library of information as far as lyrics were concerned and dance moves were concerned. Like, how can you track it? How do you know that that's what he said? And they would scientists the way that they would go at it. No, because he said this and then that pattern and blah blah blah. And I was hooked after that. There was really nothing else to consider. So when I got the chance to work at the source, it was like a dream come true. But I've been scheming on some way in my entire life.
I love it. And for me, all of these stories rolled into one, which is crazy. So we're from Queens. We grew up together.
This is my big sister. I grew up in her house.
Literally grew up together, which is crazy, right? But the stories of hip hop and seeing Run DMC and hearing the beats in the middle, you know, on Friday nights in the schoolyard and wondering who was performing and all of those things just made me so excited about hip hop. And then when I got to Howard, it was like crazy, right? Homecoming and then performances. And I always tell the story that one of the things that made me even more excited about hip hop was that the year that Puff brought Biggie here, I was a junior and I was standing right there in Cranston when Biggie was on stage with Puff. After then, there was no way I was going back, right? And so it was just learning about the culture first and foremost and really, I guess, making myself like credible. And we'll go into that later, but just learning about the culture is so dope. And back then, and I'll say back then because I graduated from Howard in 1994, hip hop was this, people didn't want it, right? So you're not only loving the culture, but you think it's now so amazing, but you have to kick in the doors because of hip hop. And that became the social justice aspect for me, if that makes sense. But we can get into that later.
So thank you. Going backwards now, from that experience, that first touch point in your experience with hip hop, and I heard Shari talk about actively asking for an internship, but when did you actually find yourself in the industry? Was it you seeking it out, or did you actually just kind of wake up one day and kind of be like, "Dang, I'm part of this industry"? You know what I mean? So, Mecca, if you could, is there anything that you could touch?
You know what? You might be right. It might have been the first piece that I was able to write in the magazine. Because I had done everything there is to do as far as hip hop is concerned, with the exception of DJing because I couldn't afford the equipment. But everything else I had tried to do, and I had done to some extent. But when I sat with a man named Jeremy Miller, who told me that if I learned to write the way that I speak, I would have a future. And he convinced a guy named Eric Parker, who was a senior writer at the Source magazine, to assign me a story. And my my first review was Ed O.G. and the Bulldogs. Yeah, salute the boss. It was Roxbury, whatever the zip code is. That was the name of the album. I can't remember. And I think they got like a 3.5 mics from me. And I think when I saw my name in the byline for the first time, is when it really dawned on me, like now I'm actively contributing. And I can't just talk anymore. Whatever I say needs to be backed up. So when I started reading all the issues that I could get my hands on to learn everything I could. I think that was it.
Lenny?
Mine was a little different. I started out on the promotion side, so I didn't have I knew I wanted to be in the music business since Run DMC. So I knew at an early age, 10 years old, 11 years old, going into high school, I didn't do any, strategy, but I didn't do any extracurricular activities because I would leave school every day and go to the studio or go to a music event or a in-store signing. I was just trying to get to wherever the music was. So promotion was the easiest thing to do early on because it was free. You didn't even have to be an intern. You just had to get product, be down with a team and get this stuff out. And I, fortunately on my block, there were some guys who were in the music business. They weren't like big, but it was like Showbiz and AG. And then there was a guy by the name of Drez who was in the group called Mecc. And they had a hit record called The Choice Is Yours. You can give it this, you can give it that. And that was like big back then in the 90s. So being able to shadow him, me and my friend worked in the mill. He worked in the mill. We would make stickers of Black Sheep and all of our friends and then stick them up all over. They're like, even the label would be like, where's this product coming from? We didn't make this product. So we were doing street team stuff before we even knew what street team was. And that was just me just trying to like promote my friends. So that turned into obviously a real job, which is where I ended up at Bad Boy. And I was only at Bad Boy for 1 year. Did promo, and Bad Boy was massive. It was 1995, but I didn't feel like a real part of the team. It was already on fire. Biggie was big. Everybody was humongous at the time, and I felt a little out of place, and I wanted to be somewhere where it was being built from the ground up. And I heard about these guys. Well, I knew about Jay. I was a big fan already. He had in my lifetime and just some early stuff, and he had just formed RocNationBuckwild end of '95 into '96, and I quit Bad Boy after a year. I said I was an idiot because I was like, leaving the biggest label and the biggest artist at the time to go work with this guy named Jay-Z, who at that time, wasn't nothing compared to Biggie, you know what I mean? But I really thought Jay was going to be big. And I took my chances, and from 1996, I've been with Jay ever since.
The intern request, or what was the first?
I felt like I was in it.
Yeah.
I would say my story is a little unique as well, because even though I walked into that building in 1999, it was very family oriented, right? So I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. But I feel like the wow moment is similar to Mecc in the sense of, I remember Emil's album came out and I was in the I wasn't even in the, I didn't have a job title in the credits. I was in the thank you credits. And that was like a wow, I was so proud of that. I was handing out CDs with flyers. And that was my moment, okay, I'm being recognized in this industry. Kind of like that work from there.
I think that mine, so as an attorney, it's a little bit different. Everything's a little bit more delayed, and your place in the industry it comes after you finish your schooling and everything else. So while I was in law school, I entered the Viacom and BET, and that was when I first started seeing my name in credits and things like that. Then with the Faders still in credits, but it wasn't until I was with Roc Nation where I was writing the bylines for albums that I was helping clear and put out. And I think, even some of those, I felt like I was just like the junior lawyer in the group. I think honestly, one of the first whoa, you're here moments was when we put out Jay's 444. And even Magna Carta, where I was in a Jay-Z album. And I was just like, whoa, this is different. Nobody can take that from me kind of thing. And so I think there's all these, if you look back, my time at BT or my time at the Fader, was as legitimate, an entry into the industry as any. But I think that when you really start to touch the music that you kind of grew up on, or you see folks that once were, just this dream kind of like collaborating with you, then you have every once in a while you kind of have those that go up here and I'm important to them, and it's already known that they're important to you. So
All right, one more, and I'll try and go ahead and open it up to everybody. So with that, those two experiences, the love, kind of realizing you're there. What's the biggest risk you had to take to achieve that? I heard Lenny talk about quitting Bad Boy a second ago, but is there a big risk that you had to take and pivot to thinking about it? Man, if I do this, if I don't do it, what was the biggest risk you had to take? I'll start back at the end. With Ryan.
So my risk was far more financial. So I took out loans to go to law school. When you finish law school, you're 26. So most of everyone else on the panel was immersed in it when they're in their teenage years. So for me, it was not taking kind of the well-beaten path of like going to a firm or something like that. I really wanted to be in the industry in some capacity. And so when the Fader magazine became an option for me, it also has like an ad agency connected to it called Cornerstone, which was one of the first groups to ever put out mixtapes. They also have done some of the big ad campaigns that you've seen, like Lil Wayne and Mountain Dew, or Pharrell and Converse, Andre 3000 and Converse. They have the Fader for it every year at South by. But I took a job that was making a third of what I could make as a first year attorney. I worked for somebody, my superior was 4 years younger than me, and I had passed the bar, and I was working, just basic, day-to-day work that they could like try to give me. And so that risk was big. I kind of had to humble myself in a lot of different ways. But, now 10 years removed from graduating from here, my classmates that took those jobs are burnt out. They're tired of their jobs. They have no like interest in what they do, and it can't sustain. Whereas I can grow with this, for as long as I see fit, because it just continuously gives back to me, and you can move however you want to make it work within this industry as an attorney.
I could just talk about that really quickly. So I told you I graduated from here in 1994, but back then, hip hop wasn't really a business or a business model, right? They were just trying to get it going. So for me, the risk was I graduated from Howard. They was like, "Oh, you graduated from Howard, you gonna go work at hip hop?" Like, word? And I was like, "Yeah." But it was like, and I graduated probably making 1/5 of what, no, that's a lot, maybe like half, right, of what my peers were working. But it was gonna be like Teach for America or the radio station. No, it was hip hop for me. So the risk at that time was people not understanding that hip hop was a real business and we could really make money and really provide a family. And I'm just so blessed because all these years later, I was able to provide for my family off of hip hop. I was able to travel the world off of hip hop. Like I'm the hip hop professor because of hip hop, but it was the risk of Teach for America versus hip hop.
And all of that is because of the Bronx, because hip hop started.
All right, Shari, yeah, what was your biggest risk that you had to take watching those videos?
I'll talk about a risk that I had to take within my career when I was really young in my career to get to the next level, right? Because yes, I took financial risk. I mean, RocNationBuckwild paid me $25 a week for I think for 3 years, but it was all worth it. But I always like to talk about one of the biggest risks that I believe propelled me to the position that I am in today. It was having to take a step backward to move forward. I remember I was in a position, I felt like I was overqualified, but the music industry was just in a unique place. Rockefeller had kind of like, went separate ways. And I was really kind of like, what am I going to do now? And I was still young. I was 16 starting in the industry. So this time I'm probably 20, 21. And all of the people that I felt like I was kind of like aligned with was much older than me. So I felt like I also had people were looking at me like, well, are you really prepared for this? behind the assistant role, I took that position to reestablish myself outside of Rockefeller. And with the, just kind of like with the handshake agreement of, if I can do this and do something else, can I prove myself that I can be in a position I was already doing at Rockefeller? And so that position really afforded me the opportunity to grow. And then, from there I've been musical chairs in the business. I went from intern to marketer to GM to president. And I always talk about that one time where I had to really kind of like let go of my ego and, do what I needed to do to move further.
So then is it leaving Bad Boy? Is that the biggest risk or?
Yeah, probably. I mean, well, going into it, leaving Bad Boy, it just, I skipped over this earlier, but it backfired on me because when I went to go meet with Jay, so a friend of mine was working at Rockefeller, he was gonna be my way in. I knew Jay by face and Damon by face, but not personally, you know what I mean? They would see me out promoted. So he was like, no problem. I told my friend, I was like, I quit Bad Boy. I want to be a rock. But this is you guys, it was a brand new office, like 5 people in the office. And he was like, bet, I got you, come out of the office. And when I went there, he throws me in the room with Jay, Damon, and Biggs.
Wow.
And Jay immediately looks at me and goes, pardon my language, he's like, nah, fuck out of here, he's a bad boy. Like he recognized me from promoting for the past year. I was everywhere, every club, every performance, everywhere you saw my face and I was everywhere. So he automatically assumed, I don't want this guy, he's from another team, he's from another label. And I was like, no, I quit. And he was like, nah, we good. So I was dead. I didn't have anything. What I did was my friend Ray. I told him, let me get every piece of promo product you have on Jay and just let me know where it's gonna be. And I did that for like 6 months. So Jay had a show in Philly. I went to Philly, great house. Jay had a show, wherever he had a show at, I went and I promoted, I put stuff up. So one day he came out of the club and saw me giving stuff out and he was like, all right, enough is enough. Like, you good. And I was like, hired. So I did take a risk there.
All right.
I've been thinking about this question since you asked it. The reality is I don't have one answer. I feel as if almost everything I've had to do moving forward in this business has been done with no safety net. And I've had to make some pretty hairy decisions at every turn. Leave corporate life, go intern for the source with the possibility that they may not hire me. Go leave my not cushy, but safe position as a circulation coordinator and step out and start writing. Knowing that now everybody's going to see me and I have to come out from behind the shadows and actually write. And I may suck as a writer. That goes good. Graduate to, being the music editor. Now I'm choosing the artists to get to be in the magazine. They may suck. What happens? That's going to blow back on me. Big risk. Leave the Source magazine. Work for a bunch of other publications. Now the cover of the Source is no longer mine to have. Now I have to write for other places. And these are not fans of mine. They're not fans of the Source. The Source is having a bad reputation. I step out from under that. Okay, that worked out. You know what I mean? I had a couple of music groups for a while and I was making my own music with. I had to stop doing that in order to, put food on the table, stop chasing, okay, well, now this might not work out. So let's give that a shot. Busta gives me a call and says, listen, I want you to help me put this album together. Imposter syndrome. What if I'm not as good as I think I am? What if, what if? Go ahead, let's do it. He says you can do it. You think you can do it. You can do this. The album goes good. Somebody shouts out in the audience. That was my favorite album. That went well. ViperRecords comes around. They asked me to be president. Now I can sign the kind of artists that I've always complained about were never getting a shot. Now I can give them a shot. What if they don't do well? Now I'm staking my reputation next to theirs. My expert opinion pops up. Now they want me to talk about my opinion to the point where people like Liddy S are gonna make fun of me every chance he gets because I may say something and now my opinion is out on Front Street. We can't hide behind that anymore. It's recorded, it's on tape. So I almost feel like every step there's been a level of risk. And, you know, success doesn't come to the comfortable. My pops used to say that all the time. Success doesn't come to the comfortable. So there it is.
All right, beautiful.
No, I just like giving people a hard time. But can I say something before you? I just want to talk about, because two things I love, one is relationships, right, forming relationships, and also how things become full circle. And we just all ended up on this panel, and I have a personal relationship with everybody up here, but like full circles, like Shari really started with us at 16 years old. Like I used to live in the Bronx, and I don't know how we ended up, we just clicked right away, but I would go down, stop in Harlem, pick her up and take her to the office, because I'm like, every single day, 16-year-old girl, I just couldn't see getting on the train. I met her mom is like the realest one ever. She's like, you know, make sure my baby's safe. So I literally picked her up every day and took her back. But, you know, even knew from then she was a star. I knew from then she was brilliant. A 16-year-old girl in a, you know, male-dominated heart office like a Rockefeller Records with 3 street guys, like, you know what I'm saying? It's a lot, I think, for a young woman to handle, and she handled herself very well, and she stood up to everybody, and I thought that was amazing. Jazz, one of the most brilliant women I know in life, and especially in music, and I would sit in her office every day. I was working at Rockefeller. We were signed to Def Jam, you know, that was our major, as you know, we were an independent label, and every day I would make an excuse to go to Def Jam to get something, to do something, and I would sit in her office for hours, and I don't even know if like she knows like what that meant for me, like just being there for hours, like soaking shit up, like it was crazy. Mecc is my man, he's been killing it, and then Schafer, we met like on our own, and I know how, you know, Terrence J from 106 Park, I knew Terrence very well, and they grew up in North Carolina together, and Terrence was like, yo, my man's moving to New York, take care of him, Schafer, and I was like, oh shit, I already met him, and then I got an interview at Roc Nation and got him a job the next week. So like, it's really all a full circle moment, and the full circle comes from having great relationships with people, and I just want to encourage that, really.
Let's go ahead and
Hold
open.
on. I studied Lenny, yes. As far as A&R is concerned, no, we're not gonna do that. I studied when it was time to make an album. In the A&R world, there's royalty. He's sitting at that table. That's a fact. That's a fact. I don't have to gas it. Before we got cool, I said the exact same thing. The pressure was on when Bus asked me to make an album with him, because this is the guy who I needed to measure up to, quality-wise. Not the same kind of artist, but quality-wise, it had to sound like a Lenny-esque back project. So I just don't let him gloss past the fact that he set standards in this business that those of us who step into those shoes are still trying to catch. So,
Say one thing before I cry, because this is a full circle moment. But I like literally, like I've watched this panel of folks become superstars in this music business, and I'm honored to sit at the table with them. Like this is like hip hop royalty, like across the board. It's the truth. And we're sitting here, a full circle moment. I'm here every day, but they took time out of their life to come from New York for y'all. Could you imagine? Watch them in this music industry, and I just want to give them a round of applause because they are. I just want to add one more thing too. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But I do think it's important because Lenny talked about how he was able to nail off his jazz and what you did for him and he not know it, right? And Lenny doesn't know what he did for me, you know, picking me up every day, making me feel comfortable and going into that office and feeling like I was walking into, you know, just a family. And it gave me confidence because I was 16, I was shy, I didn't know, you know, I didn't really understand how to navigate. And I literally grew up, you know, with these people and they were role models. So, and now that I have to pay that forward, right? So it is my goal every day not to just develop artists, but develop executives and people. And so I think that that's also really important that we continue to do that in hip hop, right? Because it's a very still small group of us, Black executives that actually have the power to make a difference, and we need
let's see if we get some questions. You all have been listening to the panelists here, very powerful stories, very important stories, and there's a theme kind of developing. I think we can kind of ferret it out, and I'll talk about that, trying to put a bow on it at the end. But do we have any specific questions coming from the audience? Go ahead, my brother.
All right.
Go ahead and stand up, brother. Give us
Okay, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you guys a serious question. Let's be honest. How does a record get played on the radio? No, seriously. Is there some Wizard of Oz character behind a song, pressing the button saying that it has to sound like this, it has to look like this, it has to feel a certain way? Is there, I mean, let's just be real with each other. I mean, so, and if there is, then who is that guy?
Is that for anybody?
Yeah, I mean, I'll answer a piece of it from my knowledge. So you at a traditional record label, you have a music director and program director, right? The music director usually, well, both of them do, but the music director, they both have the power to add music to the playlist. Because radio stations rather have playlists that they play. That comes from different things. Some of them are metrics. Back in the day, it was call-ins, requests, rather. So it's different things. Obviously now a little different in the digital age than it was then. But I mean, you know, there have been moments I've heard, I'm sure, of payola. There are moments of people just liking the record or liking the artist and then adding the record. There's no real like specific formula. I would say it's supposed to be what the music director and what call-in requests would be. But I mean, obviously that's evolved and it's changed, but I mean, there's all different kind of ways. Just like how you have relationships with people who meet and you didn't know them prior to that day and then end up liking them and then doing a business deal with them. Like, there's no like structure. It can just really just happen, but it's supposed to be requests. It's supposed to be, you know, if the record is standing up, obviously like outside of the, you know, a lot of people's cities, they have their own stuff going on where it's like they get momentum or traction. Maybe they're performing places, or maybe the strip club, or just like clubs are playing them in general. And that creates, right, traction that the radio station or people at the radio station will hear. That's another factor that's set in. But it's really all different kind of things. Sometimes it's bullshit.
Okay, absolutely. So as an A&R, now, in terms of the song, I'm sorry.
You get one follow-up. One follow-up.
So in terms of being in A&R and being very successful at being in A&R, what were some of the records that you picked that was able to be played on the radio, and were they successful by you and Lenny, you know, coming up, you know, through that field, being in A&R, please?
But no, but just because I don't want to answer something that's not directed to him. A radio promo guy or person is supposed to pitch your records to the radio station. So it wouldn't be the A&R. You know what I mean? We make the record, and then that record goes on to marketing, goes on to radio. We sit in a room like this and we figure out the plan and we say, okay, who's these I Want to Rock is the single. This is where we're gonna go. And now he's gonna do what he does with it, right? He's gonna go on and go online and write and do a dance and do something, and that's gonna be that. The radio guy is gonna go and say, hey, listen, I got this record by Lil Uzi, it's different, it's electric, whatever. He's gonna pitch it. It really being pitched. And because before the momentum happens, remember, that's the beginning. So it's like you want to kind of do everything it takes. Like with Khaled, we do everything it takes before we even go out. So we shoot the visuals, so they don't say, oh, maybe when a video comes out and they get some momentum, we do everything. We get it going in the streets, we get it going in marketing, we get it going online, we get it going everywhere so that you don't even have an excuse. Like there's nothing you can say outside of it unless it's terrible. You know what I'm saying?
There are several jobs in between point A and point B, is what he's saying. Between promo, and trust me, I'm running an independent record label. I know the difficulties of getting a record on radio. It can really be just as simple as somebody likes it and they decide to back you. I've had people say, hey, listen, you got 25 grand, I'll get it going right now. That person could be fugazi. He might be telling the truth. You know, I'm joking, unless you mean it. It's one of those things. Like it could be something like that. There's no one size fits all. There's no one magic guy. It could be a woman, it could be a couple different people, but there's an ecosystem that you have to create that gives a record to radio. There are very successful artists who don't see any radio play. If you walk past a certain venue, you'll see a line around the corner, look up at the marquee, it's a guy you've never heard of, or a woman an artist you've never heard of. Very successful, no radio, which is what we're going for, because radio costs. The promo guy, the guy who's pitching, he doesn't do that for free. The DJ who comes out to the club, you have to know what day he's gonna be there. You have to show up. There's 20 other guys there who all wanna have their records played in front of. You're auditioning all the time.
And in closing, I would say, I'm glad we live in the time now where we don't need radio.
I was gonna ask you, does radio matter?
It does.
It matters, but you don't need
It matters, but it's not the end all be all.
Right.
at all.
Hold on, let me, I saw two hands in the back. The brother sitting down, I think you have a hat on right there, and then the brother behind you after that, all right? And then sis, I got you back there, all right? Go ahead.
Yeah, kind of piggyback on what man said, shout out to your passionate question. That was a good question. My question is kind of all over the place. Do you feel that it's even like this is a music industry conference or panel? What do you think in the digital age is getting a label deal really necessary now with the internet and social media? And because there's no real A&Rs anymore. It's pretty much like you were saying. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, like Universal Music Group pretty much runs at all those old record labels anyway. So when I talk about the music industry, is really a gatekeeping culture in itself.
It's always been that. There's
So-
always been somebody who said, this is good, this is not. And we weren't mad at that before because we
But now
based
we
on
don't
quality.
have tastemakers. We don't have the tastemakers in it. But the people in the suits sitting behind the office, they're not hip hop. They don't understand the culture like we understand the culture.
But that
And
depends
people
on
like
who's got
back in the
to.
90s, you had the A&Rs who were hip hop. You had the Source magazine with the 5 mics and all of that. So we don't have that anymore. We just have the internet and people sound on the dotted line. So how do we?
Let me,
meet in the middle?
let me pass that to Sherry. I think you might be able to handle that one in terms of your position and just, when I hear the suits, I'm always like, okay. You know what I mean? Like, depends on who's in, I heard you say
No,
that.
it's
This is
an
a
accurate
suit,
statement. I never
Yeah.
get offended on it, about it, because it's an accurate statement. There are way more suits than there are people in the mud.
So, is there an industry?
Do you need a label? It's a tough question, and the reason why I say it's a tough question is because I know what we do every day, right? I'm sorry. I know what we do every day, and I know the energy and the strategy and the investment that we put into our artists, and it does take investment to break superstar acts. Can you do it on your own? Yes, but maybe would it take a little bit longer just because you have to make sure you got to get yourself to, making that money or raising that money. You have to, today's time, because we're so oversaturated in the market, you have to consistently be putting out content, putting out music, and that in itself is an investment. So does a label help with that tremendously? Absolutely. If you have the funding, can you do it? 1000%. But even with you having the funding, you have to know where to spend the money. You have to know who the gatekeepers are. You have to know how to reach out to people. You have to know how to create demand. And it's not just vanity metrics, right? It's not just buying a radio spot and buying a post on Say Cheese. It's all of those things compounded into one that really help to break through. And you have to keep doing those things. It's not a one-time thing. So does labels come into play, and are they effective? 100%. If you do it on your own, yes, but you have to be realistic with the resources you have, and if you know how to really kind of like direct all of those things.
Great question, my man, and even better answer, and I'll give it to you like this, like it's the difference between Steve Jobs making his own computer in his garage with his friends and going door to door to try and sell it, or Apple backing him and then doing it like that, right? Like, you can do it on your own, and he could have probably gotten to the same place. Like she said, it would just take way longer, and then you're talking about, let's just say Apple has whatever, 1,000 employees. You're talking about 1,000 people now working on your record. You're talking about a marketing department, a digital marketing department, a radio department, like video. You're talking about a lot of people with a lot of resources, with a lot of relationships that are now fighting for publicity, fighting for you to get to where you need to go, obviously way faster and way stronger, right? You know what I mean? So you can do it on your own, it's no problem. And I personally don't believe these days an artist needs a label. But if you really want to be a Drake or a Doja or Rihanna, I just think that you really need the backing of a label financially and the support of what they're going to do and how many people work there. That's all. And it's hard to do that with like your two homies.
That kind of answers his question, like, how does that go?
But it depends on what kind of artist, it really depends on what kind of artist you're trying to be. When I consult with these guys, I ask them, okay, what's the goal? What's the goal? What's the end goal? What are you trying to look like 5 years from now, 5 months from now? Where do you see that? All right, if you want to be on the road performing, you don't necessarily need a label. You just need to build it up locally. But if you want to be global, like they're describing, no, you can't do that by yourself. You don't have the resources. You don't know who to call. You don't know who to pay. I can give you $100,000. You pay all the wrong people and not have any money by the time it's left and no traction. So it really depends on what kind of artist you're looking to be. If you want the glitz and glamour, yes, you're going to need a label. If you want to be local, maybe not. If you want to be somewhere in the middle, figure it out. Maybe an investor, maybe a day job. But it really depends.
Can we pool our resources and create our own distribution?
LaRussell is doing that.
Yeah.
As we speak, he's doing that right now. LaRussell out west is doing that exact same thing right now. But it takes a collective of people who all want to see one thing happen. The reason why those fall apart more often than not is called ego. Someone will decide that he's not better than me, I deserve the shot, and that will be someone on your own team. And you see what I'm saying? The house collapses from the inside. LaRussell is doing it because everybody has one objective, to make him pop. If you can pull that off, then it's no problem. But the reason why it falls apart more often than not is because people can't get their egos out. Everybody wants to be the star.
How's he doing it? He's doing it by giving everybody who works with him.
Hold on 1 second, bro.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, because we got that's a good follow-up. You got a question back there, bro?
I got it. I have a question.
You speak up, my brother. Yeah.
With the content cycle and social media so abundant, can you explain the importance of artists thing right now? Good question.
Shari, superstar.
So you said, what was the question about why artist development is super important in today's time? I mean, I feel like, again, with the oversaturation of the marketplace, the only way to really like break through with an artist is to truly do artist development, right? Because it's not about making the money immediately. It's about making the money over time and sustaining, right? It's about building career artists, and you can only build career artists when you when you don't skip steps. And that's what artist development, I think that's really what artist development ultimately is making sure that you have a core fan base, making sure that you are known in your hometown before we try to, broaden you out to other territories, other markets, making sure you have a lane that you know what you're feeling. You're not trying to reach a bunch of people at one time, but it's all of those factors that ultimately are artist development that help to sustain and build career artists. And I always use this example, like today's time, right? We're looking at a bunch of artists. We have a lot of artists that shoot up the charts and fall right back down just as fast. And if you look at the artists that have been doing it for a long time and they've taken their steps, those artists, if you really look at the charts and the metrics, those artists are the ones that are still at the top today. You still see J. Cole, you still see Rihanna, it's like one of the most outstanding, I don't mean to rock all Rock Nation artists, but you still see the Kendricks of the world. Those artists are still the most generated revenue in hip hop And so I feel like we get kind of like blinded by all of these, just all the headlines, when at the end of the day, the artists that really did the true artist development are the ones that are really, really eating still today and making money and keeping the lights on for a lot of these labels.
Yes.
Hold on 1 second. You still have a question back here, sis? Yep.
Yes. Hi, y'all. My name is Christina Johnson. I'm a senior marketing major here at Howard, and I'm a fellow for the Winter Music Center for Music Business. My question is, we spent a lot of time discussing the past 50 years and analyzing the trajectory of hip hop, but I'm interested in what progress y'all hope to see with hip hop when in terms of like AI, social media, technology. What do you hope to see in the next 50 years? Because that's a lot of growth that's going to be happening.
Well, let me spin it a little bit for Ryan. So in terms of that AI piece, what's the legal angle on that, if you could?
I can hypothesize, but ever since streaming started, 15 years ago or so, the music industry has been something that the legal field has tried to, keep their hands off of, mostly in the name of copyright, because it's just moving too fast. It wouldn't work through the courts or, legal process in time for the next thing to have popped up. I think that for me, from a fan perspective and with like a legal understanding of where it's going, the most important thing is that hip hop remains the somewhat ownership of those who created it. And that could mean the community, that could mean the artists. But that's probably the biggest danger, is that you will find AI or like even those folks that can kind of front on social media to create a facade that they are artists. Those are the ones that are kind of the threat to the larger industry as a whole. And the most important thing is that the art remains with the creators, and that the folks know that the art is the creation of these creators, rather than like being in a space where they don't know where it's coming from, who it's by, or whatever else. So we get that a lot. I think other genres of music have had it happen where you get copycat types of records where this might sound like Pharrell, but it's a new artist. But generally, you knew the real, you knew like what a Pharrell record sounds like. I just hope that we can catch it in time to know, what you're seeing is an imitation, and that the original remains with the creators.
I would just add to that before I even think about AI, my goal is to create more balance in hip hop, back to what it was, 10, 20 years ago, where we had our lyricists getting as much recognition as the kids that know how to, make music for the clubs. I think we lost that balance in a way, with chasing viral sensations. So for me, the next year or two, I want that balance to be restored in a way. So I hope that we can get back to that.
Thank you.
All right, I had we get a lot of people now. Where's my brother right here? And then we'll come to this sis, and then I'll go back to you. Right here, my brother. Yep. You stand up for me.
I was just piggybacking off what Mecc was saying. Mr. Russell, he was giving everybody who works with him a cut. That's what helped him be so successful.
Oh, okay. You want to make a statement? All right. Appreciate that. Go ahead, sis, right here.
Hi, my name is Alexia Pitter. I'm an alumni of Howard. I graduated last year. Welcome to Howard.
Hello, Mrs. Pitter.
Right now I work with legislation and prison reform. We actually did work with Busta Rhymes, so I'm very grateful for that. Right. One of the things that I wanted to ask is, you guys talked a lot about owning your own struggles, and my big question in hip hop is, how do we as Black people own our struggle in our music? And so an example of that is how I got involved with prison reform is my dad's been incarcerated since I was 3 for over 20 years, and he has 20 more years to go. And he always talks about hip hop in prison. And I realized we don't talk about that. And something that's very memorable for me is like listening to Lil Wayne mixtapes from prison. I'm like, how was that possible? But they found a way to own their struggle in that way. So my direct question is, how do you tell your artists what is your direction for them to own their own struggle rather than there be capitalism on it and people who are not us profiting off of our struggle? And just what is your general opinion with the relationship between prison and hip hop?
I can answer. Go ahead. To start off, what do I tell my artists as far as owning their own struggle? I let them know that an authentic album will last a lifetime, whereas something that's hot, goes for the trends, will eventually cool off. One of the classic albums that we all love, the artist told us about 4 or 5 key things: what they loved, what they hated, what they were afraid of, what gave them joy, and what made that mix happen, right? Biggie, Jay, Nas, we knew these things about him. Felt like you knew them because they were honest with you. Kanye, love him or hate him, you never worry about him lying. So whenever I'm sitting down with an artist, I tell them, don't make what you think other people want to hear. Make the album that's in your heart, tell the truth. Tell the truth, and we'll find some beats to put around it and make it entertaining. But I don't sign anybody. I don't deal with artists who I don't feel are already entertaining. So that's where the talent level comes in. But as far as owning the struggle, I feel like that's the criteria of the person who's signing or dealing with that artist. Some people don't want to hear struggle when they're, you know what I mean? But it all needs to be entertaining. Whether it's she broke up with me, I'm broke, I'm up, I'm rich, everything's dope, I still feel pain. It all needs to be authentic and it all needs to be entertaining. If it's those 2 things, I don't think you'll lose. Just a matter of getting it to more ears. And as far as prison system, ViperRecords, we an artist named Immortal Technique makes it a point to go visit the prisons. Like you said, Busta Rhymes did the exact same thing. We've all been touched by over incarceration of our people. I'm just gonna say that right out on the bread. We get longer sentences than everybody else. We get the short end of the stick 9 times out of 10. So there's no avoiding that. You know someone or who knows someone who knows someone who's in prison. There are, thankfully, we found a way to get music to these guys. They have portals now where they can actually like go pay for a song, pay for a single, and a lot of times you'll hear people say, yo, this got me through my bid. This album got me through my time in solitary. This music right here got me through X, Y, Z, A, B, C. And we lose a lot of talent to prisons because I get records from these guys who are locked up that sound amazing, but they're not coming home for another 30 years. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. But little by little, we're working out ways to where these people can be heard as well. It's just a matter of the law catching up to the technology, just like AI. You know what I mean? The law is the technology is ahead of the law. That's how it always happens. Somebody invents something, and then you have to go bring the law in to kind of regulate it. So the exact same way as far as prison is concerned, we're working out ways to amplify those voices so we know exactly what it is we're losing and why.
All right. You got something?
No, I was gonna say that we're big on prison reform, and Shari could probably speak to this more because she worked really, really closely with Mecc for years, but Mecc even going through that situation, coming out of it, partnering up with Jay, partnering up with Michael Rubin, Desiree, and they have the prison reform, and they're helping thousands of people.
I would go, sis, you in the back, I'll come right here to you. Anybody else got their hand up? And right here in the pink, who else? All right, go ahead.
I do a lot of work internationally, and I hear a lot of good music, and I see the penetration that Afrobeats has had, internationally, everywhere it goes, like everywhere. And I'm wondering so it's finally here in America, right? Is it possible, like MCs, like MC from South Africa, MC from Tanzania, MC from Ghana, like Manifest or Tumi Stogie T, is it possible they could actually blow up here in the US? How do you guys feel? How do you feel about that? Are those things in the near future that can happen? What do you think?
Oh, sure, yeah, all right. I think that's sooner than later, right? I also think it depends on the climate of this current state of music that we're in. And that's what it depends, that's what all dope music depends on. You dig? If you came out with lyrical rap back when gangster rap was popping, as talented as that lyrical rapper may be, he may not see the proper shine, right? Little Brother has been dope their entire career. But have they ascended to the heights of Drake, et cetera, even though Drake has directly said that he's influenced by Fonte? No, it hasn't happened. So when you start talking about Afrobeat in some place, any kind of music from a different country, it all really just depends. There's no specific, there's nothing specifically keeping them out, but what's the mood of the people at the time that they arrive? Right. You know what I mean? It's all a matter of who's gonna break through. And now, if this becomes a vibe, if this becomes a wave, I work with an artist named Mohini Savant. Over here, you know, we're trying to get him bubbling, but he went back home to Ghana and had billboards up about it. You think what I mean? So it's because that group of people, that ecosystem is ready to embrace him and they love him. Meanwhile, over here, it's taking us a little bit of time. So there's nothing keeping dope out ever. The cream should always rise to the top. Just a matter of how long it takes. I hope that answers the question.
My brother right here.
Hello, my name is Troy White, and I'm a senior strategic legal management communication major and philosophy minor from Harlem, New York. By the way, West Indian, if there's any Jamaicans in the room.
Big up.
Always one. Always one. They don't tell you they're here.
And scholarship fellow of the Warner Music Blavatnik Center for Music Business.
This resume does not stop.
And so, speaking of resumes, you all are extremely, not just talented people, but people who understand what work ethic is to the core. Like you spending, 6 months pushing for Roc Nation when you had no idea if Jay-Z was even gonna recognize you. You could have done that for 3 years, and I believe you would have done it for 3 years without any recognition at all. So I asked this question to a panelist on my way here, and I just wanted to broaden it to you guys. What do you look for in your star assistant? What do you look for in the person who's your right hand, who watches your back even when you're not watching?
Sharing the same goals, same ambitions, same drive. I treat Troy, we met today, right? He was kicking it. You have my number? We texting already?
Yes.
Right? Yes. Like I treat you how I treat Jay. Like I don't treat anybody less important, more important by who they are. And I could see that you are a star. You're gonna be a huge star later on, you know what I'm saying? And I think God has blessed me with knowing like talent, no matter what it is. I've discovered photographers, directors, barbers, like I don't care. Like I can see something in somebody and somebody hit me like, yo, he's crazy. He just did cut the whole team. You know what I'm saying? Like I just see those things. So it's like I need people around me, one, that are smarter, and then I need people around me that have all the same ambitions, drives, goals that I have, because that's how we thrive over each other. That's why right now I only have Khaled. Khaled is a fucking maniac. You know what I'm saying? Like he just wants everything, the biggest, the best it can be, the biggest status we can get it, the number one. Like he wants it that bad, and I'm the same way. So it's like we actually push each other, and we don't. And I learned that from Jay. I learned that from Dane. I learned that from Puff. Even in that year I was there, of just like never settling. You know what I mean? Like I've seen people come in the office and they tell them to do something. They're like, well, I don't think we can do it that day, or I don't think it's gonna be possible. I don't think that they close, and it's like, the people that are at that status, they don't want to hear that. And it's not because they're too demanding or they're crazy. They're just, some people of genius have a little bit of crazy in them, but it's like, it's a good crazy. It's an ambitious crazy. And that's what I came up on. And I realized that's who I am as well. And that's why I mesh with these people. So for me, that's what I have to have. Schafer's one of my best friends. Like, he's a lawyer. He's smarter than me. So even when we're in the room, he's teaching me stuff and I'm teaching him stuff that he doesn't know, you know what I'm saying? So we all, that's how it always has to be, which is why I sat in Jazz's office every day for hours for years, you know what I'm saying? It's like learning, absorbing, and taking that, and then trying to go even further, not to outdo them, but to make them proud, you know what I'm saying?
Right, word up.
Next generation go, the next generation go, the next generation go, and that's why we're here. So people that came before me, like the lady named Beverly Page, we call her the godmother of urban publicity. Like she did Drew Hill, she did Salt and Pepper, she got them on the Grammys. So you want to give, accommodation to that. But the biggest thing, I want to say two things. The first thing is that work ethic. I'm not going to diss Howard right now because y'all gotta step it up in terms of work ethic. This new Howard mentality be like entitled. And I didn't come from that entitled mentality. Like, y'all, here's lunch and a job. That's not what this music industry is. Like, it's about that work ethic. And we got it out the mud. So now for us to give it to y'all and y'all ain't in the mud, how is that going to work? So for me, and especially here on campus, and people we look to hire, and people that I want to give scholarship to, and people that I want to give opportunity to, it's about the hustle. So that's the first thing, the work ethic. If I can't call you at 9 o'clock asking you where my flyer is, get out of my office. Because I'm not interested in somebody who doesn't have that work ethic. Or I would pull over to the side. People don't get this. Like my boss called me the other day. He's in California. I pulled over to the side of I'm 51 years old. I pulled over to the side of the road to execute that before he needs, because that's what you have to do.
It's just about getting it done. I'm gonna give you a quick example, right, of like drive and determination. And yesterday I did a workshop with Sprite from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Then I had 2 meetings in my office, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. Then Shari and Emery had an event of the new rock mixtape that we put out on Rock Nation called the Mixtape with Puma. We went to the Puma event till 12? Went back, got my bag, and then drove here. Got here at 4, and then was up for an hour till 5. My friends told me I had to be here at 8, so I only slept 2 hours. I'm here, but it's like people are like, you're bugging, you're crazy, and it's not to brag. It's not sleep. No, it's like I'm not gonna give up the chance to talk to kids at Howard, or to talk to students at Howard because I was out too late or it didn't fit in my schedule. So it's like everything that's there, whether it's for me or whether it's for you, or whether it's for my boss or whether it's for my partner, it has to get done. And sometimes that's 3 hours and sometimes it's 23 hours. I'm gonna get it done. So anybody that's around me that don't want to do that, or don't want to work like that, God bless you. Have a good day.
Away from me.
I think Dad said everything that I would say, but speaking from somebody that in 2019 basically had to leave staff a whole label, right? And the main thing for us, and I always say this, a resume is a formality for me. I need to know that you have the mentality to do everything that Lenny had said. So even for us, and I feel like I shared that gift with you, Lenny, in terms of like being able to hire the unhireable, right? The ones that doesn't necessarily look good on paper, but when you're in front of me and I can feel your hunger and your, just the grit and knowing that you want to get your hands dirty with me. And no job being too big, no job being too small. Like I would still get an artist lunch if they needed, or a bottle of water, or any of those things. And so that is 1000% how we built our new label and how we were able to just even get to where we are today. So.
Yeah, another quick one, just to piggyback off of what because that just sparked a memory. When I got my opportunity at the Source magazine, I was a teenager. I wasn't old enough to work there, but I looked weird enough so that my boss thought I was old. He looked me in the face and said, I won't hold that against you. The job was for college interns. I was still in high school. I wasn't supposed to have that job. What the Source wasn't doing at the time was selling any old issues. We had one big closet where all the magazines were just strewn all over the place and they weren't in any kind of order. I spent, between working 2 part-time jobs, I spent every moment that I had free, awake, in that back issue closet, organizing everything. And then I set up a system where we could sell those old issues. I created my salary I was only you're supposed to intern for 3 months before they consider hiring, paying you, and then another 6 months before they'll hire you full-time. I was full-time with salary in 2 months because I created my own salary. Because my attitude was never, it's not that serious, which is an attitude I get a lot when Jazz is talking about. I get a whole bunch of, it's not that serious. Like, why don't you calm down? It's not that serious. You're being sensitive. It's not that serious. But it's that serious to me. And if it's not that serious to you, you're seriously in the wrong place.
Wow, that was fun. Sis in the pink here, I think you're next, and then brother, I got you back there. Oh, you're next after. Go ahead, sis. I got it. Go ahead.
Okay, so my question is kind of basically very similar to his. How important is academia to the career progression in corporate hip hop?
So I'll start there. When I graduated from Howard, I graduated with my bachelor's and went out in the music industry for a very long time. But then I realized that I wanted to come back just so that I could compete, right? You have to always continue to reinvent yourself. You always have to pivot. You always have to learn. You always have to want to grow. So for me, I like the conduit of academia and hip hop because that's what, we can thrive off of, like, and then you could take it from there, sir.
So I get this a lot, and it's interesting because everyone that I work for, all my bosses are less educated than I am when it comes to academia. Jay and all of his partners, I don't think any of them finished college, much less high school. So if you're already in school, I would say that that's not an excuse to drop out and just say they don't have it, so I don't need it. There are ways to create the opportunities with the degree that you're getting within hip hop. I was going to say something earlier in the sense of everyone up here has had 4 or 5 different roles. Lenny himself has been a DJ, an A&R, a manager. He's helped me on the marketing team, and that's because once you're in, folks will help you figure out where you're best suited. For me as an attorney, it's a little more rigid. But that said, Shari gave me an opportunity to work in the business side, the business affairs side of the record label, right before I moved out of house. So you want to finish that degree, you want to be an expert in what you're talking about, because the only way that people can help you is if you can help yourself. And if you're over prepared, if you have, the know-how in any other area of your life, whether it's business, econ, whether it's philosophy, whatever else, that can be applied within hip hop or within the music industry or within the entertainment industry as a whole in some form or fashion. I meet lawyers that are no longer lawyers all the time, and they'll go, "Yeah, I went to law school," and now they are A&R projects for different artists. And then I meet folks that have no business acumen, they never went to business school, but they're the head of, they're the COO of their company. So I think that's one of the beauties of hip hop and the music industry in general, is that once you get in, folks will help you figure out where you're best suited. And that could be with a JD and, bar passage like me, or someone that's 16, just trying to figure it out, or in high school, just trying to figure it out.
So we got just the last 2.
You got 2 more?
So, just these last 2, yeah, they'll be the last ones.
Okay. Give me, I think I saw somebody here, and then anybody else got one more question? My brother in the back, all right? 1, 2, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Jamal John. I'm a 16-year-old international baccalaureate student at Federal Douglass High School. Also the SGA Vice President currently. And I also make music. So, one thing I've always asked, like, different people in the music industry since I've been able to be bigger than me, but I've always wanted to ask the big heads. In 2019, NLE Chocolates was, of course, he rise to fame, and instead of signing to a big label, he ended up signing he signed into masters with distribution deal. What would you say is like kind of the difference? Like, what are the pros and cons of signing a regular basic record deal than signing a distribution deal with independents?
I can touch on it a little bit. With distribution, most times with distribution companies, they're in charge of distributing the music. So solely just getting the music out to the marketplace, right? Whereas a label, you're kind of looking into more resources, whether it's marketing department, A&R, strategy on the touring side, radio promotions, branding. So you're getting a lot more access to those resources. I have seen as of lately a lot of distribution companies kind of expanding and offering more of that. But they're also taking, so with a distribution company, usually with an 80-20 split, maybe if you have a demand, you can, negotiate something a little bit more aggressive. But when you kind of like are looking for more of those resources, you got to get more up on the split side. So it's just a matter of, you didn't ask this, but which one kind of like works in your favor is more about where you are in your career and what do you need at that given moment, right? Because it's more about, like, I think a lot of artists that take distribution deals are betting on themselves, and sometimes they do have the money to invest. And then if you have the money to invest, what we talked about earlier, knowing where to direct the resources, you can now kind of lean on the distribution company to help you direct it if you have the right one. United Masters is definitely one of those companies that are more invested and not just about getting the music out. So yeah, that's pretty much kind of like the differentiation between the two.
All right, we have our last question in the back here. I can't see my brother. There he is. All right.
I would love and as much want to commend all you guys up there on the panel, doing what you guys do and being here to give back as well. Commend everyone in this room for being here and being open to receiving information. This is not a question, it's more of a statement. So I do a lot of work with organizations. I work with racial justice. I work with in the education space. Just letting you know that if you hear my name much come across, because I don't want to use this opportunity to talk business, but there's opportunities for artists in other spaces. I think a lot of times people get caught up. I'm glad you guys are here because you're showing people that you can make it or you can do other things in this industry besides be the artist. There's administrative, there's marketing. I come from that world, street team world, being up 2 o'clock and doing all that stuff. So I'm glad to see that it's got related to this, and I'm glad that I'm able to actually extend opportunities as well to artists. So I say all that to say is that there's opportunities for artists in different spaces like education, where you're being spokespeople for organizations that have a lot of power. I work with one of the biggest unions in this country, National Education Association. But they do voiceovers with artists like Kamau. We've been able to work with like Malcolm Warner, things like that, to do PSAs about bullying, things of that nature. When you were up there talking about Cali, I was like, wow, okay, maybe we can do. They also run Read Across America, which is a huge program across this country. So I said to say that there's opportunities to touch people in other ways and in different spaces, and that so for any of you guys who are in touch with artists that may want to touch people in a different way through education, racial justice, those types of things, I'm happy to chat with y'all and spread that information so we can all kind of elevate on the education side. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, we won't go through it. I saw you. Yeah. Go ahead.
Proudest moment of your career, man.
Proudest moment of your career.
All right, we'll ponder that. Go ahead, sis, with your question, and we'll come back to that one. You got one or no? You right here. Okay.
Oh, me?
Yeah, you.
Okay.
Old time.
So I had a question.
That's not that old. Go ahead, go ahead. Speak up.
So you all, I guess, creativity is at the core of what everyone does. So I want to know, you kind of face those moments where you like you're really working hard, you're hitting plateaus, or you're gonna have to take like progressive steps back. How do you all stay, I guess, motivated or inspired to produce?
How do you stay motivated or inspired to produce? We didn't get your
You remember what you left. For me specifically, I remember what I came from. I recognize all the people who believed in me and gave me an opportunity to get to where I am. And there's a saying that you never know how strong you are until you don't have any other option. And I feel like on a day-to-day basis, I don't really have options to do anything else. I can't go backwards. It is what it is at this point. This is the life I chose. I've heard that saying a million times. But when I'm uninspired by circumstances, I just remember that I have a purpose. I found my purpose. And success doesn't come to the comfortable. So if I'm uncomfortable in this moment, you remember that tough times don't last, but tough people do. So, let's get it. We'll figure it out. I know what the worst was. I remember being homeless for like a year. I remember what that felt like. Nothing I'm experiencing now, as far as being uncomfortable, is going to be as bad as that. So if that didn't kill me,
all right, let me we're getting a little signal here to
Yeah,
wrap
we're
up.
done.
I know.
Cut our voices short?
I know. Hey man, we all got bosses.
This is what happens when you make it. You don't want you to talk.
All right, but please let's give our panelists a round of applause. That was a tough one. She stumped y'all on that one. What do we have? We have.
Yes, so, I know that we want to take pictures of the panel, and while whoever's taking pictures will take pictures, I want to make a couple of announcements for the audience, so we can multitask and like move quicker. So the block party is moved into the Ira Aldridge Theater, which is right there. We had to make other plans because of the rain. So if you had, not really bad, but you will need your badge to get in to the Ira Aldridge Theater. So the other thing is, I hope everyone got a raffle ticket tomorrow, closing ceremony. We will be giving away some Howard swag, some other stuff, gifts. You have to be there to win it, to get it. So if you're not there, then we'll go to the next person. And if you haven't signed or tagged the art board in room 104, please do so. We're starting the first session tomorrow at 9 a.m. So please be here on time. We managed today to stay relatively on time and not kind of run over too much. But the artists over there, they've been doing sound check for the last hour or so. So I believe that they're ready for us to head that way. And so hopefully, we'll end the night dancing and seeing some good performances. That's what you said. So I honestly, I feel like they don't really need it. Yeah. People.
Excuse me, everybody.
Go ahead.
Yeah. You do not need a badge to get into the block party yet. You're in this room, you can get that.
Yeah.
People naturally assume that, and